What's up, guys? Welcome to Sharpen Your Sword podcast, episode 22. Today, I have a very special guest, a good friend of mine, a very successful man, a high performer, a successful entrepreneur on the podcast. Some of you guys that are watching will know him, and some of you guys that are watching are not going to know him, but you will learn something today off of this show. And this will be my favorite episode. I'm super excited. I've been trying to get him on here for a while. Like I said, he's a very busy man, family man, a businessman. So he's always busy in the business, honestly. And so finally, after a few months now, we got him here. So welcome to episode 22, Sharpen Your Sword podcast with John Ennis.
No pressure.
Welcome, Mr. John.
And we got Mr. John, guys. And we got the one and only Grayson. Okay, his little protege, the future champ. Both of these guys train jiu-jitsu. They're both white belts now, right? But Mr. John is a white belt in jiu-jitsu, but I look at him as, I don't know if he would say it, and a lot of guys are humble, but I look at him as a black belt in business. A black belt in business with multiple degrees. So I look up to this guy a lot, and I'm always picking his brain and learning something from him from the business perspective. So welcome, Mr. John.
Thanks for having us.
Yes, sir. And I'm not going to forget, like always, the number one co-host, Giovanni Jimenez.
Hey.
Where's it? Can we get some like a sound effect after that? Woo!
When my dad's getting beat by a girl. Womp womp.
All right, I can tell that this is going to be a good podcast with Grayson on here.
He's after me.
He's already started hot right out the gate.
I'm after that.
I like it, Grayson. So there will be a lot of sound effects because Grayson made a request to use them today. But let's go ahead and get started, guys. I don't want to waste any time because I'm already taking up plenty of time of Mr. John's, and he has a lot to talk to us about, okay? But Mr. John, for the guys to know a little more about you, what do you do now, and how did you get there? What was your upbringing, from a young man to the successful man that you are today?
So I was born in Birmingham, Alabama. And my father worked for a company called Overnight Transportation, which was a large less than truckload provider. And so we moved around a lot in my youth. So I was born in Birmingham, quickly went to, Houston, stayed in Houston for 2 years. Went to Shreveport for 2 years, Kansas City for a year, and then landed here in the Memphis area in Collierville, and have lived in Collierville since. So Memphis is pretty much home for me. I've got an older sister by 2.5 years, and then we've got the surprise. My little brother, I had to throw that in there, Nathan, who also trains with us at the gym. And so Nathan was born here in Memphis, and my father continued to work for overnight transportation here until he left and worked for another truckload provider before he started the business that I run today, which is J&J Express. And so from a young age, I've been around trucks my whole life. My father been in trucking since I was born, so it's kind of second nature, And but went through the Collierville school system. I believe I was the last class in the old high school there on Poplar, the class of 1994. showing my age now. Ended up going to the University of Memphis, getting a logistics degree. I worked through the business since its inception. I was 16 when my father started the business. And, so I've worked for that business 31 years of my life. And so, you were talking about black belt in business. If you did jujitsu for 31 years,
Be a coral belt.
I mean, you're going to
Sure,
be
black belt, yeah.
Who doesn't want to be a coral belt?
You're going to have some, you're going to be able to do that.
Yeah.
And so, trucking to me is what I know, and what I've done, and have spent many years of my life doing that.
That's very motivational already to hear that you've been into something 31 years, okay? And I'm going to dive deep into more of your upbringing a little here in a minute, but 31 years, okay? And so when you hear something about that today, right? Of course, you're in your late 40s. But one thing that I think about right away is we don't see much of that anymore with the younger guys, with the youth, right? Is they can't hold a job, it seems like. It's always like a few months, maybe a year. If you got good a little bit, maybe 2 years, and then next job. And it's a never-ending process. And the crazy thing is we're seeing this into some of the people that are in their 30s also. Not just the guys in their teenagers or the 20s, but we're seeing this with people in their 30s. And so it's crazy to see that because now you're, like we said, you're a black belt. We're going to mix this with jiu-jitsu because business and jiu-jitsu goes together. Is you have to do something for a very long time to be, a samurai, to be the black belt. And when you can become the best you can be in what you do, then that's where wealth comes in and money starts coming in as well. You have to be a black belt in what you do to be the best in the business, right? You're not going to be the most successful as a white belt. Now you have to start there, okay? So what do you tell these guys that are just jumping jobs? Like, hey, some people say, well, I'm not good at this, I'm not good at this, I'm not good at this. Well, I'd say tell them right away, it's like, bro, you're not sticking to it. You got to stick to it. Like jiu-jitsu. Like you went through the suck. You didn't want to do jiu-jitsu at first. You're a Muay Thai guy, right? Mm-hmm. And I looked at you guys and I said, hey, once you catch the bug for jiu-jitsu, you will never look back. So you went through the hardships recently because I have a hard time with looking back being a white belt. I have to try to feel it through you guys, right? But I started horse riding a few months ago and I'm a white belt. And so I get frustrated and I get angry because I can't get the techniques. And I get upset with myself, and I'm looking at videos, and I'm waiting for the next lesson, right? And so, what do you tell guys from a business perspective, really, on hey, you need to hold a job, you need to learn the skill to see success in that particular field?
I think it's a lot like jiu-jitsu, like you're talking about, or anything that you're going to do. You're not. Unless you're just a natural at something, and there are those freaks of nature that are just natural at anything that they try. You just got to show up and put one foot in front of the other. And I think that to your question, that if the younger generation is jumping around a lot, you're trying to do too much. Now I understand pay, right? Better in your family, better in yourself. If it's just a toxic environment that you're working for, you need to get away from that. But we see it in our industry specifically with drivers. So drivers jump around. They're always thinking that the pastures are greener on the other side. Mm-hmm. And the problem is, what I tell them is that there's no perfect place to work. All right, you're trading anytime you trade up a job. We like to think that we know we're not perfect. We're going to make mistakes. But when drivers start jumping around or employees start talking about leaving, I say, well, what are you giving up? All of my drivers have my cell number. And some of my managers think that that's crazy. They don't want them to have my cell number. Mm-hmm. They want them to go through them first. And I encourage that with them, but I tell them that if there's a big enough problem that they can call me. Mm-hmm. But what I'm getting at to that is, if they go to another company because they think that it's better, are they going to have the owner's cell phone number? Yeah. Does the owner really care about them, right? Or are they just a number? And so for, what I would encourage people to do is to stick with something long enough, to your point, because it is, I'm still, it's still a huge challenge for me to show up as even after training a year. We were talking about this at breakfast. I was wondering, when was I going to be able to try to calm down and control my breathing? You can tell yourself, hey, I'm going to control my breathing more. But that's a learned response. That's not something in the moment of battle or rolling around that you're going to be like, oh, I'm going to control my breathing.
Right.
And that's something about just putting one foot in front of the other, showing up and doing the work. And it's no different in business, in my opinion, that you've got to show up to develop those skills. And I think that's where you were going with that. Because if you're trying to do too many things, you're spreading yourself thin. And so, if you're not focusing on one or two things to try to get better at, you may be decent at several things, but you're never going to be great. And you hear a lot of top athletes talk about that, right? And so it's no different in business for us. We can kind of get crazy and start, we're going to do this, we're going to do that, we're going to do this. Well, then you drift away from your core competency, what you're really good at, and your whole business suffers from that. And, I've done that in years past in business. We've started other ventures that we were going to do this, do that, and saw that it was taking away from the focus of what we did best. But for the younger generation, you're hitting the nail on the head. A lot of them are jumping around a little too much, in my opinion.
Yeah. And you said something very, very important. And you said the truth is you have to put one foot in front of the other. And what people don't understand is you have to do that for a very long time before you even see any rewards or fruit from that labor, And you did that for 31 years, right? From where you started to you are now, you're not in the same situation, right? You started from, we'll say from the bottom, and now you're in a different, God bless, different situation, different lifestyle. But you have the ability to live that from the 31 years of putting one foot in front of the other day after day, whether I like it or I don't like it, okay? And so a lot of people can't see this early on. They can't foresee the future. And I asked you this earlier, did you foresee this? And you're like, not necessarily. I know your story when you first started working. And people think that if they see somebody like you, they think like, okay, he got lucky. Or, it was a handout or whatever you want to put, but they didn't see the X amount of years, the X amount of hours, that I can't sleep at night. My eyes are wide open. I'm thinking like, how am I going to pay the bills? What am I going to do to pay my employees? What am I going to do to feed my family? Like this, people don't understand that this does not end. It never ends.
Everybody wants to own their own business. Nobody really fully, I shouldn't say nobody. The majority don't fully understand what that entails. And for myself, you asked the question, did I see that I would be where I'm at today? No, there's no way possible for that. And I was fortunate enough that I had a father that believed in kicking my rump until my nose bled, and there was no can't. You couldn't say I can't do that. There was a solution, and he pushed me. He pushed me hard. Pushed me hard in sports. Pushed me hard when I started working for the business. And I didn't come in and him take that sword and I kneel down and him like knight me. I started at the bottom, and I worked my way up, improved myself to get to where I'm at today. And I think that if you're not working through and fully understanding everything in your business, then you're going to be pretty weak when you're at the top trying to tell other people what to do.
Right. And do you think, because from what we talked, the early days of starting in the family business, right? And not many people work in a family business. They don't truly understand what it's like, right? There's a lot of things going on in a family business.
It's tough. It's tougher than working. It's tougher than working for non-family.
You know, people think it's like, oh, you work for a family, like you just you work whenever you feel like it.
No.
It's actually that you get, you get more crap than anybody, the truth. You get treated harder than everybody. You're the last on the totem pole.
You can never leave when you work for somebody else, you can kind of leave that business. When you work for family business, you never leave it. That's all you talk about.
And if you decide to leave, in some families, it's like we're shunning you, like get away.
That's right.
You know, like you can't leave the business, really.
I'll be honest with you. I've thought about leaving the business several times throughout that 31 years. So my father and I are so much alike that it was
Button heads.
Constantly. And, our relationship really didn't start getting even manageable probably until halfway through that point. He was just so overbearing. Mm-hmm. And my father's a micromanager, which I'm not. And because if I'm going to pay you to do a job, I expect you to do it without me. Because if I'm going to tell you how to do it, I don't need you.
Right.
Yeah, but my father's a micromanager, and he wanted it done his way or the highway.
Yeah.
And he'd let you know that. And you'd be like, Dad, I've got a better way. I don't care about that better way. I want it done this way.
Yeah.
And this is what I want you to go do, and I want you to come back, and I want you to report that you got that done and what the outcome was. But when our relationship started getting better is when he started trusting in me. He started backing up. He started saying, look, we're going to go a different route to get there.
Yeah.
And he would get to where he would tell me, he would say, that's not the way I would do it, son, but try it. And then when he started saying that my way was maybe better or
It's working.
it was working,
Yeah.
he started backing off a little bit.
Mm-hmm.
And our relationship got a lot better with that.
Mm-hmm.
But early days on, I'd be lying if I said I didn't think on a few different occasions that I was leaving.
Yeah.
And that last J in J&J is my initial.
Yeah.
But yeah, working for family is tough.
Yeah, and I was kind of in the same boat growing up, and I was very aggressive in the way I like to do things. I still am, right?
Me too, brother.
And I think that's why we click, right?
Mm-hmm.
And
Type A all the way.
yeah, and so it was the same thing. Like in the family business, also is like when you have, usually it's your dad above you, right? It's when they look down to your son or whoever their kids are, they look down like they don't know enough yet, or they don't have experience, or hey, you're still too young, you're still too green, you don't know what you're talking about, And to a certain extent, they probably are right, But there's a difference also between old school and then like your dad is new school. Like from me to you, I'm the new school to you, right? There's a change in generations, and so there has to come a point when you have to change, and so the old school quits working. It's still like the old school mentality, like, hey, hard work, this is it. This is the way we know. This is how we're going to run it,
And so I call it the golden years. I always prod my old man, messing with him, Dad, this isn't the golden years.
Yeah.
Like when you were doing it, things have evolved. And what worked for you, it's just not going to work.
It's a different time.
It's a different time,
Yeah.
And, some of the stuff will, right?
Yeah.
And I'm not taking away from my father by any means. He's, a man smart, 10th grade education, left home at 16 years old, and worked his way up to where he's at and what he created. And so very smart, but it's like anything else. So, you see a lot that, we're using an analogy of jujitsu, right? And so jujitsu evolves. Mm-hmm. And so it would be like you not practicing jujitsu for 5 years or 10 years, and then coming back in with people that have been doing that.
Yeah.
You're going to suffer a little bit.
Oh,
right?
yeah. Maybe more than a little.
New techniques, new ways of doing stuff that y'all weren't doing when you started, probably, right?
Yeah.
And so it's no different in business. And that kind of comes back to what we were talking about with people that aren't sure about their career path.
Mm-hmm.
You know, you got to kind of stick with something.
Yeah.
You know, now if you know you just can't stand it and you hate it, you know, life's too short to be miserable.
Yeah.
But I'm miserable a lot.
Yeah.
I own my business. I'm miserable more than any of my employees. I'm miserable. You're miserable more than anybody in your organization.
Yeah.
Right. It's just a different kind of miserable. Right. It's the strategizing, the worrying, the responsibility that you have on your shoulders.
And that's what some things that some people don't understand, right? Like I'm gonna go back and talk about it a lot because you see this a lot on Instagram. You see this young guy or whoever it is, and they're smoking this big cigar. They got a Lamborghini. They got the mansion. They're taking pictures in the jet with whoever it is, right? But people are not seeing the other side of this, and they're like, "Hey, you're a business owner. You're living a lifestyle. You're not working.
Right.
You're not because you're not in the business necessarily. You're not working. But like you said, man, like you don't get to have a day off. Like you said, and 31 years later, you're still miserable.
I work 24 hours, 7 days a week.
It doesn't
It's
stop.
a cell phone, right?
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It doesn't stop. And it's just, does that mean your company's not set up? Yes, you have a successful company, but you can't ever take off the gas. You can't ever stop because every day that right before you go to bed or when you wake up, the first question that probably pops up in your head is, how am I going to pay the bills? What if this happens? What if that happens? You know, what am I going to do to better the company? And so that's another battle that people don't understand unless they're in your shoes as a business owner, and other business owners can relate, you know? And so everybody is miserable in their own way, but for some of these guys that are not sticking to a job, they need to find a skill that they need to acquire and build off of it.
That's correct.
Because if they don't do anything now, they're going to be in a lot of trouble because now they're teaching you not to have, families, when you have a family, when you have true responsibility and you're not 18 anymore, what's going to happen then?
Well, I think, I could talk about what I look for in what I consider like all-star employees. And so we talked a little bit about this at breakfast. And, specifically in the trucking industry, you don't need a college education, right? So college is going to teach you, to be prepared, right? You got 3 exams and 6 papers due, right? They don't expect you to retain all that information. I don't see how, right? But in the trucking industry, some of the most successful people don't have college educations. And so that's not a prerequisite, right? What is hard work and dedication and, good old gumption, wanting to there is no can't. We're going to find a solution if it takes us all night, no different than in jujitsu, Gio's on top of me, right? And I'm turning this way to get out and he blocks it. Do I just lay there? No. I've got to come back a different direction. I've got to keep trying to get out. And it's no different in business. And so you're not going to be successful. You're going to fail more than you're successful in business. But it's finding those nuggets of success and what made you successful and learning from that. But more so learning from your mistakes. Because, they say the definition of insanity is doing the same thing over and over again and expecting a different outcome.
Right.
And so,
there's another topic that we can go into. Like I said, I'm excited for this podcast because it feels like it's endless. I can sit here and pick your brain. But you said learning from your mistakes, right? And I'm going to keep referencing the younger generation, right? And this is not just the younger generation.
We're not beating up on you, younger generation.
Yeah, you youngins, I'm not picking on you.
Yeah.
But this is not even just the young generation. It's our society as a whole now, right? Mm-hmm. There is no mistake. I'm not wrong.
That's
right?
That's a problem.
I feel like that's one of the biggest problems that we have is that I'm not wrong and the victim mindset that we have these days. Mm-hmm. And so like, if we hold these mindsets, how do we expect to progress when I'm not wrong? I can't take my ego, put it to the side and accept the fact that I am wrong and I am to blame. I can't sit here and blame Joe Schmo or whoever it is for my problems or why I failed or why I'm not successful, and never looking, pointing the finger at myself. So I can't move forward. And so what do you say to these people like, hey, about accepting the fact that you're your problem? You can't keep doing the same thing over and over again and expect a different outcome.
You know, I don't want hate mail, so I'm not going to go too far into this, right? Because these are it's just my opinion. But it starts with parenting with the children, and it's society today. And it's, you know, how do we protect these kids? How do we keep them all in this bubble to where you can't hurt Grayson's feelings?
Yeah.
Grayson needs his feelings hurt,
Yeah.
right? And I'm not being mean there, but I'm saying, how does he grow as a person if his feelings are never hurt? How does he learn how to respond to that adversity in life? There needs to be challenges. If I swooped in for Grayson every time that he had a little pressure on him and fixed the problem, he's never going to know how to fix that problem for himself. So that's not my job as a parent. But, you know, being also making sure that he accepts responsibility, that he is wrong. Because I'll be the first one to say it and I'll take, you know, as a business owner, you take a lot of the blame.
Yeah.
You know, if you're a good business owner, I think you take a lot of the blame.
Yeah.
You know, when something fails, you know, and to your point, if somebody can't look at themselves and say, I made a mistake, that was wrong, you're going to continue to make those mistakes over and over and over again. Yeah. Now we're getting back to borderline insanity, right?
Yeah.
And so I think that a lot of it is with our society today, it's, you know, can't hurt anybody's feelings.
Right.
I mean, it was different when I grew up, right? And, you know, you've probably everybody's seen the Instagram reel of Dana White, right? Where he says that a kid today, that if they're remotely savage, have you seen that?
Yeah.
They're going to rule the world.
Yeah, crush everybody.
They're going to rule the world.
Yep.
And so if I can teach him to be not mean, but aggressive and savage in everything that he does, I mean, that's a pretty good father if I can accomplish that, right? Instead of going the opposite way and protecting him until I can't protect him anymore.
Yep.
It's not doing him any good.
Yep. And after years of teaching kids, so I've been teaching kids, coaching kids for like 7-8 years. And so I've gone down this, you know, journey of trying to find ways to better the youth. And this isn't like on a mental level. Like parents think it's face value. I was talking to a parent the other day and I was telling her like the kids are so much smarter than you can imagine. Kids are way more smarter than you can imagine, right? They think it's like, oh, I cry or I say this and it's just face value. No, kids say things to play a game. Kids say things to get what they want. They know how to manipulate at a very young age. And so when I started learning all this, right, I started to learn like, you know, they say to impact a child, you need it's the first 7 years of their life. You know, everybody puts X amount of years, whatever, but the point is the first early stages of a child, that's the most important development ages for the child to make them successful. That's where you build the self-esteem and build the confidence. And that's why I push Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu for young kids, you know, from 4 years old or younger to start training. You know, Grayson is 12?
10.
No.
10 started very early. So he's already starting his development, his character development, confidence and self-esteem, which is, if you don't have this from a young age, it's going to be hard to build it. You know, and if you don't have confidence in believing yourself and have self-esteem, how do you expect to accomplish anything? And so when parents are not giving the child, because confidence for a child comes from failing. People think it's not from failing. They need to fail and then beat that failure. And when they beat that failure, their confidence goes up. Okay, so if I shelter this child and I keep all the harm away from him, you know, bad words, whatever it is, and shelter him to the point where I don't want his feelings to be hurt, I'm not protecting him. I'm actually doing the opposite.
You're harming him.
I'm harming this kid because I'm not making him I'm preventing him from reaching his full potential. Part of reaching your full potential is heartbreaks, is, you know, hurt feelings, is injuries, is like you see it's every parent is different, right? Like my nephew fell down the other day and it wasn't bad. Like if it's bad, obviously you pick up the baby. Fell down and I just sat there and they wanted to pick him up. I'm like, no, let him get up. You know, small things like this because they rely on you, right? And so if we do everything to protect this child, we're actually not helping. We're building a bubble around them, and if somebody pokes this bubble, all hell breaks loose. You know, they will go in a fetal position and break down. And this is what we're seeing today.
What do these kids get in sports today? Participation trophies.
Yeah.
Every one of them, participation trophies. And what is that teaching them? You know, I get sportsmanship. Definitely want to teach good sportsmanship. But you didn't win, okay?
You didn't earn it.
You didn't win.
Yeah.
You got that trophy for signing up and your parent, you know. And so is it all about winning and losing? No, all right? But, you know, you're there not for a participation award. And so I think there are a lot of things that we do to make our kids feel better about themselves that we probably shouldn't do, you know,
right.
Because he needs that loss of not winning that competition, you know, losing at this sport, losing this game, because to be a true champion, you've got to learn how to lose.
Yeah.
And I can't remember I don't know if it was Jordan or one of them. I think it was Jordan that has a famous quote about something like that.
Yeah.
You know, but yeah, it's the, you know, we talk a lot about fears and facing fears, and you know, those fears are different for my 6-year-old or my 8-year-old or my 10-year-old than for a 47-year-old. Right?
Right.
But we all have fears.
Right.
They're just different, right?
Yeah.
So my fear is not, you know, is the boogeyman going to come out of the closet and get me when mama leaves me in bed, you know, probably is for my 6-year-old or my 8-year-old.
Right.
But we have fears of, like you were talking about, of, you know, business is tough. You know, economy's down.
Right.
You know, trucking's the worst it's ever been. It's worse than the recession right now. All right. And so it's survival mode. And so, you know, you still have those fears. You have the fears of my children going to be healthy, stay healthy, right? Are they going to do good in school? You know, all of those things. But if we give in to fear, and this is what I tell him a lot, you know, if you give into that fear, you won't ever do anything in life, you know. But to your point, being in a fetal position, sucking your thumb, you know, you're going to lock up. And so, you know, we have to teach the younger generation that it's okay to get your feelings hurt. It's okay to lose. It's okay not to succeed. It's okay. But what is not okay is accepting that.
Yeah.
That's the key.
Mm-hmm.
So if we let them accept the failures or the fears, that's a problem.
Yeah.
100%. It's like they say, being scared doesn't make you a coward. Mm-hmm. It's being scared and not doing anything about it that makes you a coward.
That's right.
And so, Mr. John, obviously every human being feels fear. How do you approach fear, and how do you use fear to help you grow and your business and in jiu-jitsu?
Well, in jiu-jitsu, y'all heard me talk about the sucker feel times, and so
He's told me.
you know, the first 6 months, I mean, you deal with the anxiety of even coming to class because I know Gio's going to smash the heck out of me, you know, and you don't have a lot of technique, and so, you know, there's that fear. Now the more of the fear that jumps in for me specifically that I have to deal with as we compete, right? And so, you know, we like to compete. And so, you know, going into competitions, you know, I tell some of our other team members that have never competed, we deal with that, you know. But to be able to compartmentalize that or push that back, right, out of your mind and move forward, you know, with business, it's a little bit tougher. Okay, when you own your own business. Now, when you're working for somebody else, I wouldn't think that it's big a fear. Maybe the fear of losing your job, right? But in business, different than jujitsu. In jujitsu, you're just going to lose.
Yeah.
You didn't get the $5 medal, right?
Yeah.
You didn't win. But in business, the stakes are a lot higher.
Yeah.
And so the fears can really eat at you a lot harder. But the main thing that I do is, I'm a very obsessive person. Okay, it's what has made me successful, but it's a blessing in that way, but it's also a curse because my mind can never shut down. And so what I'm trying to do is I'm always looking at a problem or a situation, and I'm talking to as many people to get their perspective as I can that's knowledgeable about it, or maybe that has been there. I'm also doing my research, right? And so, and then I'm laying out multiple options, right? And then we're going to pick the best option, but we're always going to have a plan B. You're never going to go in with just a plan A because you're in trouble.
Yeah.
You better have a plan B, C, D, E, F, right? But dealing with fear is a challenge, right? It's a challenge for everybody. I'm sure you guys deal with different kinds of fears, right?
Yeah, 100%.
It never ends. I heard this from Dan Pena, and he said, I don't know if you listen to Dan Pena, some guy out of the UK, old guy. This dude is hard, right? Like he'll cuss, he'll give you every curse word in the book because he believes this is how he builds character, and he's $1 trillion man. That's what they call him.
Wow.
So he has the money, right? And it apparently worked for him. But he said something, and I never forgot what he said about fear, and it's false expectations appearing real. And so this is something that we create in the mind at the end of the day. That's how powerful the mind is. In business, like you said, it is different when you own the business because I don't have a choice. Like it's not up to me. And here's the thing, like people are like, well, you can go get a job. People say that to us. But can you go work a job right now? Work for somebody?
I tell people once you're a chief, it's hard to be an Indian again. So could I? Yeah, to feed my family?
You would do it.
Absolutely.
But
It'd be tough.
It's gonna be tough.
Be tough.
And my uncle said something like that. He's like, when we were in a family gathering, I heard this when I was young, and he's like, we have too many chiefs and not enough Indians.
Yes,
you know what I'm saying?
yes.
And because we're all type A, a lot of us are type A, and we're hot-blooded. We have a lot of energy. And but the people are like, it's easy, you go get a job. Well, it's not that easy, right? Because when you own a business, I have to, before anything, I'm doing this because the truth is, I can't work for nobody. Will I do it? Yes. To feed my kids and my wife, I will do it. But I can't work for somebody. This is not my personality to sit here and do this and do that, right? It's also not in me to strive to achieve an X amount and be done there. I want more. That's part of being a business owner. You want more. It's I'm grateful, but I'm dissatisfied. I'm never satisfied. I'm great. I have gratitude, but I'm dissatisfied. I want more. And it never stops with, I need to pay the bills. I need to feed the family. I need to pay my employees. I'm going to lose my business. So this is not just like fear on a face level of like, hey, I'm going to lose a basketball game. This is like on another level. Like I don't have a choice. So this naturally sets in. But at the end of the day, it's what you do when it sets in. If you sit there and ponder, it's going to eat you up. Just like if you freak out at a tournament before your match, you're done. It's going to start chewing you up from the inside out. And by the time you get to the mat to perform, you're not going to have anything left.
Gas.
You're going to be gassed. You'll be breathing. And like, bro, I was rolling for 2 hours last week. What happened today? And so the best way to overcome fear, and I actually released a little segment on this on YouTube. It's 10, 15 minutes. So if you guys have time, check out the YouTube. But it's overcoming it. Just go for it. Put action. Put one foot in front of the next. And this is one of the best ways that we can overcome fears, is to actually look for a solution than just sit there and ponder on the problem, And so a lot of people have to understand, just get after it. Like it sounds cliche, you hear it from Jocko, you hear it from Goggins, But the truth is, you just have to put one foot in front of the other. Do work. Don't just sit there. And I'm gonna jump on Grayson a little bit, and then I'm gonna come back to Mr. John. We talked about child development, Grayson, building strong kids, to become young men, to become after that strong men, right? But it starts at a young age, and I don't know how much you see it now. It's one of the biggest blessings to be able to train Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu at 10 years old. Do you know how much I talk about I wish I started at 8 or 10 or 11, whatever it is, instead of at 18? But then I have him, he's like, I wish I started, 5 years ago. I'm thankful I started at 18, okay? But you're starting at 10 years old. So by the time you're 28, you will have 18 years of jiu-jitsu, okay? And one of the biggest things that I put jiu-jitsu is because it builds confidence, What do you see from jiu-jitsu so far that you've learned? Or training, because you started with Muay Thai. So you know how to, if somebody raises their voice at you, you can give them a 2-piece and a biscuit combination, right?
Yes, sir.
So you have some hands, and now you have grappling, and you can roll with the bigger, stronger people and rely on your jiu-jitsu. What do you see so far from training jiu-jitsu and your confidence?
Well, I see that I've went far in jiu-jitsu, and now I know a lot more because of you as my coach. And doing jiu-jitsu makes me a better person, I think, because I can defend people that are in trouble, and I can help my friends learn if they want to have some fun with me. And it's just fun to do jiu-jitsu.
Okay. How do you feel in your abilities after you started training jiu-jitsu? Do you feel like you're capable of getting things done now?
I feel like I'm capable of respecting my parents more, and I feel capable that I can kick someone's butt.
Wow.
So that's good. That's good because at the end of the day, we're not here to learn jiu-jitsu to pick on people. Right? Mm-hmm. But we are here to learn jiu-jitsu so we know we have the tools, if need be, to defend ourselves or our loved ones, right?
Yes, sir.
And so that's the whole point of jiu-jitsu is we want you to learn skills. Because if you learn to be capable with your hands, if you learn the skills to be capable with your hands, then that's when your confidence goes up. Because you can do something if you have to, right? And another way our body that we gain confidence is training our body, putting our body through hardships, through physical, conditioning, workouts. In return, that tests the brain and tests the mind. And every time you push your body and you finish that training session, right? Like this morning, your dad right now is cramping. He's trying to act like he's not.
It's locked up.
He's cramping since this morning, right? In training. And he's still trying to train on top of it. But it's going through that hard workout and finishing the jiu-jitsu training, and that's when you finish it, you realize okay, I did that. Yes, I was wore out, but I did that. And so because you did what your mind told you not to, that's when you get stronger. And every time you test your mind and it starts talking to you negatively, hey, Grayson, just stop. This is hard. Or hey, people are gonna laugh at you because you're going to a tournament and you may lose. But if you say, hey, who cares? I'm trying to become better. And I push that to the back of my head and I put one foot in front of the other. That's when my confidence comes up. And then just like your dad said earlier, basing off Dana White's quote, is if you have a child who's just have a little bit of savage in him, he will beat most of the population these days because we don't have that no more. So if you can hone that in and control it and train it for year after year and become that savage, controlled, that good human being, right? The strong man, then you can achieve whatever you want. You'll be willing to overcome that fear. You're not gonna let the fear get in front of you.
Yes, sir.
Is that something that you feel now training jiu-jitsu?
Yeah, in comps. And definitely when Worlds comes up.
Oh, okay.
Out there.
So you trying to go across the country to compete?
He's trying to go big time. But he's got a lot of work to do before that. But that's what he's wanting to do.
That's what I want to hear, right? It's not many people can say, hey, I'm going to Vegas to compete, at the Kids World, one of the biggest tournaments, to go across the country for us from Tennessee to Vegas in a flight and travel and get there and there's 10,000 people in the arena, you know, that comes from confidence. That comes from wanting to overcome your fear. And that's what makes us better. Now, is it based off winning or losing? No, it's not. Now, does winning help build confidence? Yes, it does. You know, it does, absolutely. But the biggest thing is actually going for it. And a lot of people these days can't even do that. Just go for it. Just get out of the comfort zone and just try. Why not just try? If I try and I win, good job. If I try and I lose, hey, I know I need to work a little bit harder. That's all it is, you know? And so I'm glad to see that you're training in jiu-jitsu, you know? Anything you want to add?
Well, I have learned from you that some people don't try, but that's not good, I think, in my mind, because trying gets you to a better person, and I like to try to give 210%, just like you said I should try. And I try my best and my hardest at every competition and in classes.
That's what I'm talking about right there. That's what I'm talking about. I'm going to cut it real quick. We're going to go ahead and say it like it is. So we trained 6 a.m. this morning. And during training, Mr. John always cramps up. These guys sweat like crazy, okay? And he started cramping, and the cramp was bad, and it went away after a couple-hour break, and it just came back and
Yeah, I locked up. Full lockdown. I was trying. And then once I start sweating, it's like turning a spigot on.
Yeah.
So you got the new
merch.
wardrobe. Yeah, the merch, maybe.
I'm different than him. I represent border.
Hey, I like both of them. Both of them are good. But so his cramp came in and he started pouring sweat. So that's why you see his shirt change colors.
Yeah.
I had to get him a black T-shirt.
Everybody that trains with us, they're like, "Oh, that's just John."
Yeah, that's normal. So, guys, we did finish, like I said, we did finish training jiu-jitsu. That's why we're talking a lot about jiu-jitsu. We're obsessed with it, right? If you haven't noticed, we do. Some of us have obsessive behaviors, okay? So we won't shut up about what we like to do. But earlier, Mr. John, you were talking about participation trophies. And you see this in youth sports. You see this in youth sports, not just as kids, right? Sometimes as kids, you build the confidence. Hey, here's a medal. Kid gets happy. It looks cute on camera, right? The parents take a picture with this participation trophy. The kid didn't even fight nobody at a tournament, but claims a trophy, a medal, right? It is what it is. I tell my kids every time we're not going for participation trophies. You know, that's one thing I do teach the kids. You don't deserve anything. You have to earn it. And our society, right, I hate to talk about it, even though we live in the greatest country in the world, right, the United States of America, our society is changing. And it's a society, like we said, of victim blaming, victimhood, excuses, you know, make everything easy. I should get paid this. I deserve this. I deserve this because of this. I deserve this because of that. Okay? And we see this a lot from the youngins to the older, to the professionals, corporate, you know, careers, is I deserve this, you know? And I believe you don't deserve nothing. Nobody owes you anything. If you want to get paid, you know, if you want to go from, you know, making $100,000 to $200,000, you just generate that income for the company. You know, if you can't bring that value to the company, there's no way. Even if I wanted to pay you that, I can't. The business has to pay you that. People have to realize it's not me, it's the business.
That's right.
If it doesn't make sense for the business, it's not possible. You know, so if you want to make $1 million, it has to make sense for the business. The business, you have to generate that for the business, generate X amount more so you can profit, and then you can get paid more. If you can't do it, you deserve nothing.
Simple economics.
Simple, you know? And so on that same topic, you know, people, if they know you now, right, or the ex-entrepreneur, right, like I was talking to somebody and they're like, you know, somebody made you know, they make a joke, but it's not really a joke. It has like another meaning. They're like, Mo, you're always traveling. Ha, 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 ha. You know, do you even work? Ha, 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 ha. Right? And I work every dang day. It doesn't stop, you know? And I'm like, and in my mind, I don't say it because I don't want to hurt their feelings. It's like, bro, I work 2 or 3 times more than you in 1 week. You know? For if you were to compare, you know, like my week is for 2-3 weeks of what you do. And this is not to pat myself on the back. This is just the way we live. That's the way you live, right? This is part of being a business owner. And so they see what you have, or they see the lifestyle you live now, and they don't know the upbringing. They don't know the backstory. They don't know the nights that you couldn't sleep. They didn't know the nights that you were like, bro, I'm done. Like, I think this is it for me. You know, like, I don't know if I can keep going forward. You know, I don't care how mentally tough you are. This comes in somebody's mind. This has come to mind in my academy. Thank God I didn't fold. There's been a point at the beginning where I'm like, man, maybe I made the biggest, wrongest decision of my life now. Mm-hmm. It came in my head, you know? But how did you, you know, because this is hard work. This is not, I believe in nobody has what they have at a high level without the hard upbringing, without the hard work, without the miserable days, without, you know, everybody has a sad story. Everybody has a sob story. I tell people, everybody has one. Mm-hmm. Some are worse than others. It doesn't matter. Like, if you come up and tell me this crazy story about how, you know, you had this sad upbringing, guess what? I can find somebody in the world that has it worse. You know, this is just our reality, okay? But it took you a while to get here. It took you X amount of years. This was not in the first 2 years. This is now we're talking 31 years later, mm-hmm. okay? How much do you think your upbringing, and if you want to talk a little bit about the upbringing of the hard days and hard nights, like it wasn't 8-hour days. Mm-hmm. There was no, I don't believe there was 8-hour days for you. Mm-hmm. If I look at you today, from being a business owner myself, I don't think there was normal 8-hour days. So how much does that play in a part in becoming who you are today and becoming successful? Like, is it just an overnight, hey, I'm gonna work 40 hours?
No. And it's, you know, it's kind of like if for anybody that's played blackjack. So you go play blackjack at a casino, you're gonna be up, you're gonna go down. You're gonna be up, you're gonna go down. And, you know, for any business owner, the cycle of business is like that. Unless you're like Dr. Johnny, like we were ragging him yesterday. Yeah. You got a money tree in your backyard. You know, but business, I'm sure for Dr. Johnny, you get him on here to tell you the same thing. Right? Yeah. It hadn't always been great. Right?
Crazy upbringing.
He's worked his rear end off to get to where he's at today. Yeah. And so, you know, there are different stages as well. So, you know, do I work as hard, like physically work as hard today as I did 15 years ago? Mm-hmm. No, I don't. But could I get to where I'm at today 15 years ago? No, I couldn't, right? You know, to your point. And so, you know, it's all about where you're at in that cycle, right, of business, and you've got to have good people. You know, I've got great people, you know, and that takes pressure off of you as a business owner to be able to not have to necessarily be in the bushes all the time, right? You can kind of stay at that 60,000 foot view. Yeah. And you can still come down and get in the bushes if you need to, and you have to do that from time to time. But, you know, I think, you know, going back to what you've been talking about, where people are like, well, I just want to own my own business. I want to be there. Mm-hmm. Okay. You can get there. Yeah. You know, you may be lucky and you may get there like year one. Yeah. Okay. I don't know what business you're in, you know, but most businesses have cycles, right? For the trucking industry, it's usually a 7-year cycle. The cycles have been kind of crazy lately. You know, COVID was a huge boom, but we've been in a down cycle now for a couple of years. And so when you're an employee, your paycheck's the same, unless you're an hourly, you know, but usually even if you're hourly, you work a set amount of hours, right? Or a salaried employee. You know that if the business is doing good, you're going to make that money. If the business is doing okay, you're going to make that money. If the business is doing bad, you're going to make that money. And so, you know, as a business owner, when the company's doing good, you do a lot better. But when the company's doing bad, you don't do as good. Yeah. That's the trade-off. Yeah. Right? And so it's no different than going to the casino, in my mind. It's very similar to to getting on that blackjack table. You know, you're going to ride some highs, and sometimes you're going to go in there and you just can't lose.
Right.
And a lot of times you're going to go in there and you're just going to get smashed. You can't win a hand. You know, and business is like that, in my opinion.
And a lot of people, so I want to dive deep even more into this, is they see things like as an overnight success, right? And this is, I want to keep hitting this kind of topic for a little bit, because these days, like I said, is people want to just get there. Like, but they're like, Mo, but why? Like, why do I have to work 7 days a week? Why can I not have, work-life balance? Why can I not go on a vacation? Like, I talk to some of these young guys I know, and they're like, yeah, I'm going to Cali this week, and I have another trip planned to New York, and I'm going to the beach after that. And I'm like, bro, what? Like, for me, this is an extreme mindset. What have you created to just be jumping around everywhere in a different city? All you're doing is working to pay for that vacation. You're not creating a life. You're not benefiting in the future. You're living life now, right? And so they want to enjoy the moment now. And so I see a lot of business guys or future entrepreneurs or guys that want to open their business, young people, right? Because it's they made business and self-employment like a fad almost. They don't want to show the true colors or the truth behind it, like how extreme it is. And so because of Instagram or TikTok, like young guys, Lamborghini, right? And so they think they can work 4 days a week and they will become successful. They get to go, now after years, you can go on a vacation after 31 years, And it didn't take 31 years to go on a vacation, but you get the point. Like after X amount of years, I can go and spend a week wherever I want. Am I going to enjoy the vacation? Yes. Am I still going to be working? Yes. The work doesn't stop. I don't care where I'm at, right? I can be on the moon for vacation. I can be on the beach, on an island, the Bahamas. It doesn't matter. I will still be thinking about work, okay? But the point is, I got to be able to do this. But it came after hundreds of hours, weeks. It came after, my hands are bleeding. It came after, maybe tears, blood, sweat, whatever you want to make it cliche and it sounds sweet, right? And you tell guys these days, like, bro, how much you work? And they're like 6 hours, 8 hour days. Or they show up late, they go home early, or they go home half of the day, right? Or they want weekends off, or they want holidays off every time, and they want this and that. How was your upbringing in the company? Like, how did you start? Did you have 40-hour weeks? Did you have, cute little 6 hour days and you were in an air conditioned unit all day?
No.
How did you come up?
So, my father started this business as a spotting and shelling service. And so spotting, yard hustling, yard dog. And so basically it's an automatic tractor. If you've ever been around a warehouse, you've seen them. They're white or yellow generally, right? They've got a sloped roof and it's got a hydraulic fifth wheel. So you don't have to get out and roll the dollies. And so, what you're doing, you're putting trailers in and out of dock doors, right, to be loaded and unloaded. And so that's where I started at 16. I started school at 4 in Texas. So I finished a semester of college before I turned 18 because my birthday's in December. And so wasn't ready. Went straight to UT Martin for a semester, go with my buddies. And like I said, before I turned 18, I made, I think, something like a .27. I passed golf with a C. I didn't have a class before 2 o'clock. The only reason I passed golf with a C is because some days we would want to go see if we could hit the golf balls out on the highway, when the teacher wasn't looking. So, basically what I'm getting at is that, my old man said, hey, I'm not paying for a party. And come back and you get your job back. And so came back and he worked the mess out of me. And, we were growing then. So we were not in the stage that we're at now, to your point. And he had an ace in the hole in me. And as far as when somebody didn't show up, what I mean by that, he had the easy button. And so then I had a pager. And I was instructed that if I get paged by him, I better call him, stop and call him. And so I could be completing an 8 or a 10 or a 12-hour shift, and I knew when that pager went off, that somebody wasn't showing up. And we weren't large enough at that time that we just had a stable of available part-time drivers that would fill that shift.
Right.
So I would be at Sears in North Memphis and finish up shift, planning on going home, seeing my girlfriend or something like that, and or getting some sleep. And the instructions would be head towards Coors or somewhere else, Tripper Tissue. And, I'll try to find somebody to relieve you. Dad, I've worked, 12-hour shift. And he's like, I know you have, and I'm going to get somebody out there. And that didn't always happen, And so there were times that I worked, 2 shifts, slept in that truck when things slowed down. I studied in that truck, right? But for me, I figured out real quick that I wanted to work with my head and not my hands because he put it to me. And, I stayed in that mule through college, with my course load, studied in that mule. And, today when one goes down, the air conditioner goes out, we can't get an employee to drive it.
Yeah.
Right? We have to have spare mules to put in there. My dad didn't even spec them with air. We had 245 BPU. You know what that is? 2 windows open and 45 mile an hour. And so I would be black and soot, right, from just road grime and stuff around those lots. Have to take like 3 showers when you get home. But, I wouldn't trade any of it. I wouldn't trade any of that because it's made me who I am today. Like I said earlier, I can't remember if I said it on this podcast or not, but I had a father that believed in kicking your rear end until your nose bled if he had to do it. I've told you before that, my father talked about a tree with no limbs a lot, and he'd say, son, there's 2 things you can do. I tell you, get up that tree and you can go out there and you can stare at that tree and say, Dad, doesn't have any low limbs, doesn't have any limbs. I can't get up that tree. But you can bear hug that tree and get your rear end up that tree. And that was the mentality I was raised with. That was get your butt up that tree, figure it out.
Yeah.
And so that served me well. And so for me, it was not easy, like we talked about earlier, the headbutting, but I paid my dues.
Yeah.
A lot of people, to your point, I didn't speak to this, but you'd said something earlier about, they think because it's a family business, that you're just given something. And in some family businesses, that's true. In my case, that's not what happened.
Yeah.
My father made us made me earn it, and my father, I give him all the credit in the world. It's like I said, 10th grade education, left home, worked his way up. He created that foundation for me. Now I had 2 choices at that point. I could ride on his coattails and say, look at me, look at what I did when I didn't do it, right? And ride right behind him. Or I could blaze my own trail. And I could build upon that foundation that he created. And that's what I chose to do, was build a business on that foundation. And so, when I started out, bro, it was tough.
Yeah.
It's tough. And it has its different stages. But for somebody to think that they can just jump right into a business and they're not going to work, that's unrealistic.
Yeah. I am a firm believer, and there's exceptions to a lot of this, right? There's these guys that are just phenoms, these guys are intelligent and they come out of the woodworks, without hardships, and they come and they build something successful. But you don't see it as often. Most of the successful guys that you see have gone through some of the craziest hardships. They have family issues. They, not having a dad or a mom involved in their life, or they're homeless, or they couldn't eat, or they work 20-hour weeks, 20-hour days, and so a lot of successful guys, you see this in their background. And I'm the believer that this is part of their success. This is why they are successful, is because they had to go out and earn it. They had to go out and climb that tree. If you want to be successful, you got to climb the tree. It's how bad you want it. You want something, go climb it. Oh, but there's no limbs. Figure it out. And so life is figuring it out along the way. It's along the journey. And how do you think that has shaped your work ethic and your mindset to help you in the future because of that upbringing? Do you think you would have the same mindset and the work ethic if you did not work the way you worked at an early age?
I can't say, but I wouldn't think so.
Yeah.
And I want to be clear. I had the benefit of a father that was very successful, right? And so, that I didn't start this business, right? So I'm not trying to take any of that credit. But so I had a benefit of a father that, as I was working and figuring out my direction, because, we talked earlier, I think before the podcast, that, we had different ways of getting to that end result.
Right.
And while I was developing myself, I had a father there that you, as an entrepreneur, true entrepreneur, my father's the true entrepreneur, or somebody that is starting something from scratch. Like, they don't have that benefit.
Right.
But for me, you were talking with Grayson earlier about, mental toughness, and, I couldn't be happier. All three of my children, 10, 8, and 6, Madison's 6 years old.
Yeah.
She's competed twice, right?
Yep. Tough.
and little bulldog, little rattlesnake, as I call it. But, for me, it was football. For me, it was the mental toughness came from football. And so, I'm glad that they have martial arts. I've kind of stole from Coach Jason's page in his book, that it's a non-negotiable. My three are going to train. They may pause with some other activity for a couple months or something like that, but they're going to train.
Yeah.
And because that mental toughness that we're talking about, if you're not, in my opinion, if I hadn't been put into that situation and pushed by my father in sports before it was ever even working for him, I'm not sure that I would have the same mindset.
Starting off, like you said, your dad built the foundation. He started the business, and it's cool to see what the way you worded that, right? Like, a lot of guys would try to steal and say, "Hey, I did this and I did that." So, like, I think part of being a leader, part of being successful, part of being, a true warrior, or being humble, or being a true black belt, right? I like to, everything in jiu-jitsu kind of translates for me in life. To be a true black belt is to give credit where it's due. And a lot of guys don't want to do that these days. Everything is about I. Okay? So your dad built the foundation, but to see where it's gone today, where the company is today, it's, and I haven't seen the company back then, but it's completely different. It's grown tremendously. And so what are some of the biggest challenges, that you faced early on with the company? Like, starting, I know you didn't start the company, but starting off when you kind of took the reins, and how did you overcome these challenges? Because I know, sometimes, I know probably a couple months ago, and if you don't want this on this, I'll cut it. But you were having hardships in the company, and me and you talked about it in private, and you looked at me and you said, "Man, it's just me right now." And I looked at you, I was like, "Man, I wish I can help you." Like, I felt so bad that I couldn't help. It was like, this is a decision I have to make, and I have nobody to look for.
Well, what I meant by that, it's not just me. It's as far as I had recently lost. So just kind of set that up, and then I'll answer your question. But my father's health has been declining, and so I've lost that knowledge, right, to bounce things off of. And then I lost probably my closest confidant recently, passed away. He was my VP of sales. But to answer your question, I had to get rid of the prior regime. That's the truth.
Yeah.
You know, I'd say it if my father was sitting here. And so when I fully took over, everybody was used to getting senior's blessing, get senior say. And when I would tell them to do something, they'd look at me in my face and say, yes, sir. And then they wouldn't do it.
Yeah.
Or they would go to my father and say, hey, Junior said do this. And my father would say, don't do that.
Yeah.
Instead of coming to me and saying, hey, Junior, you know, I heard this. He'd just say, don't do it. And then, you know, a day or a week or whatever later, I'd be looking for a different outcome because I'm not insane and wouldn't get it. And say, well, why didn't you do that? You know, or did you do this? No, I didn't do it. What do you mean you didn't do it? Well, your father told me not to. Well, I didn't ask him because I knew, but in the back of my mind it was, how did my father know that I told you to do this? You see what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So I had to clear out that regime.
Yeah.
I had to clear out his people, and I had to insert my people in there. That's truth.
Yeah. And so this was one of the biggest.
That's the largest obstacle.
Yeah.
Yeah, because if you've got people that aren't, standing behind you and trusting in you, and I didn't get rid of them all. I had to convert some of his people. Yeah. We had to convert them by fire, though. You know? Like I said, I've calmed down a lot.
Yeah.
That was, if I had to say my largest challenge, that was probably that.
Yeah. So it goes back to the team.
Absolutely.
You know, I had a business coach a few years ago, and he looked at me and he said, you know, when you're building your business or your legacy or whatever it is, you want guys that are going to play in the Super Bowl. Like, you want a Super Bowl team. You know, so what this means is you put together a group of people that you know are likely to help you win the Super Bowl champion.
That's right.
If you can't do this, don't have them on your team. It's just simple as that, right? We don't need bench warmers, right? And so this was probably 4 years ago. And they told me this, and it clicked in my head. I'm like, man, I have to cut a lot of people. And the problem is with cutting a lot of people is if you know them.
That's a problem. So we're proud that we're a family-owned and family atmosphere, right? And that is tough. That is tough. But I feel like you've got to give somebody enough rope. And if they're not performing, if that's what you're talking about is performance, they're not one of the best 11 players that you can put on the field. Somebody's better than them. You got to give them an opportunity to get better. Yeah. You know, you got to give them enough rope to either get the noose from around their neck or to hang themselves. Yeah. You know, and for me, what I've always tried to do is be able to look in the mirror, and if I make a decision about an employee or something, if I can look in the mirror and I'm okay with it, I've given that employee every opportunity to do better. Then I can live with that. Yeah. Right.
And then I'm the same way in that because it was hard for me. You know, detachment is one of the hardest things as human beings. We are attached to a lot of things. But detaching from other humans, whether boyfriend, girlfriend, husband, wife, whatever it is, it's extremely hard. From a friend, right? A friend that you thought you had, but he's been stabbing you in the back, right? Or somebody that's been working with you for a few years, you know? And at first, you obviously got convinced that they can do the job, you know? And you slowly realize that it was just like a face put up, for the first few months, and everybody starts falling off, you know, and then they can't perform. And then the company's taking a toll. Not me, but the company at the end of the day, right? And so it's the same way you said it, is once I can look myself in the mirror, I've given the chances, and then I can look myself and like, okay, like, given the opportunity to fix it, you've given them the chances, you told them, okay, now it doesn't matter how I feel, I got to do it.
Yeah, it still doesn't make it easy.
It's still hard. It's still one of the hardest things, even till today for me. It's the hardest. I can do it, you know, but it's extremely hard. And the importance of a team, right? This is growing up, and then maybe you had the same mindset. It was I was like, I'm going to do this. And I think you have to have, to a certain extent, you have to have this belief. I will do this. I will get this done. I will live out my dream. I will this, whatever. But the team helps you get there faster. You know, the team helps you get there faster. The team makes it a little easier on you. Now, at the end of the day, being the owner of the business, doesn't matter about the team, because guess who gets it at the end of the day? You. It all falls back to you. But what is the importance of a team right? And this can be in business. This can be, your personal life. And when I say team, like, because it's personal life also, not just business, is I look at this as an inner circle. So you are the group of guys that you hang out with, or 5 guys that you hang out with, right? Everybody hears this. You are who you hang out with. And so I tell guys, if you hang with bums, you'll be a bum. If you hang with somebody that's crippled, you're gonna learn how to limp. You know what I'm saying? This is what happens. And so people always ask me to hang out, like every week, right? And the truth is, I don't hang out very few people, And it's because it's not that I'm above everybody. It's just I'm busy. I'm working. I'm trying to better myself, and I'm not gonna just kill time and BS. And so I try to surround my guys on the same journey. Guys that want more. Guys that want to grow. Guys that are ambitious, that want to build a legendary career. They want to build a legendary life. That's who I want to be around. I want to be around black belt entrepreneurs, right? Black belt fathers. So what do you say to these guys, to normal people that need to look at their inner circle? Because you, I'm sure, have tasted, traders and backstabbers.
Oh, yeah.
And then in a business perspective, how important is this team?
It's everything. It's everything. Unless your business you're your business and you do everything, right? So you gotta have trust in your people, and you're only as good as your weakest link, right? In any team, everybody's heard that. And our chain's only as strong as its weakest link, I think is the expression. But for me, my team is everything. But my team understands that they need to perform and be the best player on the field, because if there's somebody that comes in behind them, they may get that chance. That's just common sense. But as far as from a personal standpoint, all my friends that I hang out with. I have a lot of acquaintance friends, but if I'm hanging out with somebody, it's somebody we can sit in a dark closet and have a good time. You know what I'm saying? Just like talking. It's life's too short to hang around tool bags. And so my suggestion would be audit your friends, right? You're going to be a product of your association, to your point. And so if you're hanging around people that are motivated, people that are trying to do better, I don't think you have to hang around, entrepreneurs or business owners, or, you hang around good people that mean well and do well and work hard at whatever they do in life, But my suggestion to my kids would be, hang out with people that you enjoy being with, number one, but number two, have your back, right? And people that are going to support you, people that are going to fight to no end to help protect you if somebody jumps on you, or a group jumps on you. And, it's the same way in business. If you've got somebody that's giving you lip service and telling you how great you are, and they're hugging you, but they're stabbing you in the back.
Yeah.
It's a problem.
Yeah.
My father would always talk about toxic people, and he would say they're like cancers, and he would tell us you got to cut that cancer out at all costs. So you get a cancer in your finger, you want to lose your hand, you want to lose your arm, you got to cut that finger off.
Yeah.
If it spreads to your hand, you got to cut that hand off. And you say, well, heck, I'm only going to have one hand. Well, do you want to have one hand? You're going to lose your life. And it's the same way in business when you look at that. When you have a cancer in your business, somebody that's not, it'd be the same. It would apply to your friends. You got a cancer hanging out in your group. Somebody that's negative, that's toxic, that doesn't have your best interest at mind. It's going to hurt you.
How do you maintain? I don't know if you're still at the stage, but everybody, like, I get in the stages. A lot of people you hear like, I want to stop. Because it's tough. It doesn't end. It's extremely. It's extreme. Business is extreme. And business doesn't care how you feel at the end of the day. It does not. It don't care if you're happy. It doesn't care if you're sad. It doesn't care if you're depressed. It doesn't care about all of that. How do you maintain the motivation to keep going? Or are you at a point where like I don't really have a choice no more? I'm 47 years old. I can't restart pretty much.
I have
You know?
I have a choice. You know, I have a choice. You know, for me, I enjoy what I do. You know, 31 years, like I said, like we were talking about, we've been practicing jiu-jitsu for 31 years. They're not struggling the same way that, two-striper Whitey over here is struggling, right? Yeah. And so, you know, things become easier, right? Challenges when you're a two-stripe white belt are not the same challenges that you're going to have. You know, you're not going to have that same challenge when you're a blue belt or purple or brown or black or whatever that is, you know. And so it's the same in business. And so, you know, you learn to deal with the stress. You know, you learn to, that problems that were really, really huge at one point are not that big of problems today. You learn how to deal with that. And so for me, you know, comes back to, the main answer is having good people. If I didn't have a good team, if I still had all of that pressure, weight of the world on me in the bushes every day, I'd probably have a different response for you.
Yeah.
It's, you know.
Powerful. So, Mr. John, obviously you maintained a very strong mindset throughout the years, right? What are some routines or habits that you maintained that kept you going? You know, because we're creatures of habits, and bad habits will be your downfall. Good habits, consistently over time, lead to a successful life. So what are some habits that you would say young entrepreneurs and young adults should acquire that'll benefit them in their life?
That's a good question. You know, I don't know if it would be a habit. I guess it could be a learned response, would just to be driven, you know. For me, my wife would laugh, you know, but for me, I think I wouldn't say that it's a habit. It's, like I said, it's a blessing, but also a curse. For me, it's my obsessive nature. And, you know, wanting things to be perfect. And so I obsess about things consistently until I get them to close to what I want them to be within my control, right? I'm not saying things outside of my control, but, you know, I can't think of like any habits, I guess.
I guess those strive for excellence.
Yes.
Ambitious.
Yes, absolutely. Absolutely. Always, you know, my employees would tell you that I'm always lifting the bar, and I tell them that. And so you've got to be bumping the bar to lift the bar, right? There's no need to lift the bar if you're not bumping it. And so I constantly want them bumping it. But when they're constantly bumping that bar and they're saying, look at what we did it, we got there. No, we're going to move it up. You know, so you're constantly striving to do better. And I tell my people all the time, at the point that you think you're perfect at what you're doing, it's time for you to hang your shoes up. It's time for you to retire, because there's no perfect. You're never going to be perfect at anything that you're doing. When you have that mindset, we can go back to jiu-jitsu. Are you perfect at jiu-jitsu? You said, will you ever be perfect at jiu-jitsu? You never will. And so, but if you think that you're perfect,
That's it.
that's it.
You get a young little killer come in and take you out.
That's right.
A little active, competitive blue belt, brown belt, take you out.
Me.
Little Grayson.
Yeah.
Yep, me.
You gonna come take me out, Grayson?
Yes, when I get older.
How old?
I would say I can beat you.
Be
when
careful.
15.
15. Oh, you know, Momo called me. I was telling you guys earlier at breakfast. So you tell me 15. Momo's gonna listen.
We're
to this.
going to play this again for you.
I'm going to go against Momo when I'm
25.
14 or 12.
Okay, I like it. That's what I want to hear.
Call it out, folks.
It did. Something with the young
People are
guy.
going to see this.
The last 2 days, it's been you and Momo so far. Momo called me yesterday.
Want Momo. I'm telling you, Momo, I don't want you.
Dude, he called me yesterday going in on me.
Really?
He's telling me, like, I'm going to submit you. I'm like, where did this come from? He said, I'm going in order. He said, I'm going to take out Mahmoud. I'm going to take out Jay. I'm going to take out Tariq.
I love it.
He said he's going to take out my brothers first
love
in
it.
Somali. And he said, I'm going to take you out. And I said, when are you going to do it? He said, by 18, the latest 19, I will submit you. And I said, really? I said, yeah. He said, bro, you just don't know. And I said, okay. I said, you ain't even trained me. I started going in. But I see Grayson.
I love it.
I'm not going to teach you all the moves now.
That's priceless. That was worth the time of doing this. Just because when he gets about 14 3/4,
We're going to replay it.
Oh my gosh!
But you know where I'm
And
gonna
Mo's
replay
gonna
it?
be like licking his chops.
Listen, I'm gonna get a projector. I'm gonna put it in the academy. Okay, we're gonna put our gis on. I'm gonna go knee on belly. I'm gonna tell you watch this. I'm gonna make you watch it. You know, but I like it. Hey, there's nothing wrong with that.
I like the mentality.
You know, that's a good mentality, right? Not many people have that. That's what your dad said. Be driven.
Because I
Right.
want to go to the best of the best.
That's what we want.
Yeah.
You know, you have to go after it. You know, we will do what we respect. We respect everybody, but we're gonna challenge everybody. Okay, so that's good. So, Mr. John, work-life balance. We hear this a lot, right?
Mm-hmm.
And I don't know if Ben. I don't know if Ben still watches my podcast or not. So when Ben first came, and I started realizing slowly that he was gonna be competitive, right? And he started showing a little bit of signs, right? And he's a Marine. And he told me, and I told many people this, like they're like, I have a strong mindset, you know, and I don't have the strongest mindset. I would say this. I'm sure there's somebody out there in the world that has a stronger mindset than me. This is just there's nothing wrong with it, but I know I have a mindset, okay, and I know I have a work ethic. And I looked at him, I said, you think you're pretty mentally tough, buddy, you know. And he didn't accept it, you know. He obviously pushed back, and he's young. He's a Marine, new out of the Marines, and when I found out that he's going to be competitive, slowly I started rewiring his brain. Mm-hmm. He didn't pay attention, right? I'm slowly doing this. When we're going running, I started taking him on runs with me, and I'm putting these things into his head, into his mind. And at first, there's a lot of kickback, and over time, he started going with what I say, like following, like and taking it to heart, and actually, you know, implementing it. And I remember specifically where I was, and it was on this side of the mall. We were on the sidewalk running. I remember the exact spot. And he looked at me and he said, Coach, I think you need to have like balance on your scale. You know, he's telling me this. He said, I think you're kind of being a little too much sometimes. And I told him, I said, if you want to be successful, there's no balance on the scale. You have to tilt the scale. Everybody has their own 2 cents on this, right? But if there's balance, especially at the beginning stages, right? When you're successful, yeah, you can have balance. You can live a happy life. You know, you give your wife the time, you give your family the time, you give your business the time. You know, it still goes back to the business, but you still have the opportunity and resources to do it. And I told him, I said, look, if you want to be extreme hyper performer, the 1%ers, right? The elites, you think these guys have a work-life balance? You think they're just, hey, I'm going to work 40 hours and come home and live a cute life, you know, and make every baseball game, make every kid's game, make every kid's party, make every family invitation, make every wedding. You think that their life is that balanced and they're going to live at the extreme? We're talking about extreme entrepreneurs, high performers, very successful black belts, right? You think they don't tilt the scale? You have to tilt the scale. And so starting off earlier, this is for the new guys coming up wanting to be entrepreneurs. Is there a work-life balance? Is there a such thing, building something?
I've never had a lot of balance in my life. I'm either all in or I'm all out, right? And I think that kind of comes in with the obsessive personality that I've got. But I guess I would answer that by it depends on what stage of your business life that you're in and what you're trying to do. And so when there was no balance in my life when Grayson was born and young, you know, I was constantly traveling and in that office all day. You know, I found more work-home balance now just because of what stage in the business that I'm in. I'm not trying to be, you know, I'm not trying to grow by leaps and bounds like I once was. And, I'm not saying we take the foot off the gas by any means, but and a lot of that comes back to having good people, right, too, at that stage. But if you're early on as an entrepreneur and you're going to have a home life balance, I don't think you're going to be very successful.
Yeah.
Just my opinion.
Feeding into that, so this is a big thing that I've had to cope with and I have to realize is, so if you want to succeed, right, and you want to get things done, you have to sacrifice sleep. Mm-hmm. That's one of the things that people say, like the 4 a.m. club, right? Mm-hmm. But it's like, yeah, they go to sleep like at 12 and sleep 4 hours, right? I know Trump sleeps like 4 hours, right? But that's one of the sacrifices, sleep, right? But how much sacrifice does it take to get to where you want to get to?
It depends on where you're wanting to get to, right? So I guess, and I'm not trying to be smart when I answer it like that, but it depends on how hard you're wanting to go at it. And so what I would say for me, sleep's very important, although I don't sleep very well, right? But I strive to sleep very well. And I think that, there's some people that can do it on 4 hours. For me, I would fire every employee I had and wouldn't have a business, right? And wouldn't be married. My kids wouldn't like me. I've got to have more than 4 hours sleep. So I think sleep's important. I probably wouldn't suggest you sacrificing sleep. Now, if you got to get up early to get on the road or make a sales call, sure. But get your rear end into bed a little bit earlier if you can, right? And you're not always going to be successful with that. But I think the first thing you're going to sacrifice is going to the lake with your friends.
Yeah.
Going to the bars.
Friday night.
Saturday night. All the things, trying to keep up with the Joneses.
Yeah.
And trying to have that picture with a Lamborghini or whatever you were talking about earlier, and all these trips and stuff. There's people out there that do it. I'm not saying you won't. I'm saying these are my opinion, of course, is that I think that's the sacrifice. The sacrifice that people don't see. The 7 days a week, not going here or there on a weekend because you've got other responsibilities that you've got to take care of. And then it only furthers as your business gets larger because now you have people that depend on you. And you've got families within your family that you consider family. And they've got family. And, every family's got dealing with addiction issues, right? So you got somebody, they may be raising grandkids, right? They may, you don't know who they're supporting there. And so the pressure gets bigger for you to perform because if you're not just letting yourself down, you're letting, a bunch of people down, depending on how large you are.
Yeah. Crazy. So now to just play devil's advocate with you, it's, why is it worth it to sacrifice? Obviously, it depends on everybody, right? If you want to get to the big stage, what you consider success, obviously, but why is it worth it? All those sacrifices, to sacrifice your youth, to sacrifice all those good times, right? Mm-hmm. The feeling of missing out for your goal.
Well, I think for your goal, and again, it depends on what your goal is, right? Mm-hmm. So is that goal financial freedom, is that goal because you're competitive and you want to be the best at everything? What is that end goal? But I would think that for anything, you've got to put the work in to bear the fruits of your labor. And so if you want to get to where you can go, like you were talking about on that week vacation, or you've got a strong enough system in place and good enough people and your business is doing fine, and you may want to spend a month on vacation, right? You're able to do that, but you laid the groundwork for that on the times that you couldn't do that. If that makes sense what I'm saying.
That makes sense. Powerful. One reference that I heard, like analogy, it was like when you don't sacrifice, right, you reward yourself with the day at the beach. Mm-hmm. And when you sacrificed, you own the beach.
Yeah. or you can go to the beach whenever you want to go to the beach. That's
Yeah.
right. That's true. Yeah,
Powerful.
it is.
So you came up tough,
Oh yeah.
hard, tough person on top of you, you were the nail, starting off. And I think part of becoming successful and part of, growing is you have to be the nail, before you become the hammer. You have to start off at the bottom before you get to the top. And because of that, you had a strong mindset. Because of that, your work ethic was there. Now, with that being said, you started jiu-jitsu about a year ago.
Mm-hmm.
Has jiu-jitsu, poured more fuel on that? Was it more gas to the fire? Or, did it help your mindset? Did it change your work ethic? Did it give you a different outlook at some of the things? Or was it still kind of, because business and jiu-jitsu go hand in hand,
I think my mindset was built prior to my mental toughness, of course, coming in because I started jiu-jitsu so late versus Grayson or Madison that starting at 6 and 10, Eastern 8. But for me, I think anybody that sticks with jiu-jitsu has mental toughness.
Yeah.
If you're training, consistently, you've got mental toughness.
Right.
Because anybody that can be smashed and put in Suckville and decide that they're going to show up and keep coming back for that, there's some mental toughness there that they could use, if they're talking about starting a business or being an entrepreneur, right? So I feel like I had my mental toughness coming in, but I think that they could develop mental toughness with jiu-jitsu if they need development in that area that could help them in a business.
What are some of the things that come trying to make it a jiu-jitsu portion? Because a lot of jiu-jitsu guys will watch this. What are some things that you learned out of jiu-jitsu? Minus, the arm bars, the triangles. Is there anything?
Yeah, your mind's a powerful, powerful thing. You get put in positions to where your mind tells you gotta tap.
Yeah.
You're done.
Yeah.
And as you do it more and you get put in those situations more, you realize, no, I don't. I'm not in danger. I can get out of here. And so if you can learn to control that mind, which is, we're not all going to be 100% with that.
Right.
But if you can work, and I guess I'm answering your first question a little bit, but for me, the biggest thing would be definitely controlling that mind. There is confidence that comes with jiu-jitsu. I've always been a very confident person, but of course you're going to get more confidence with us studying a martial art. But quieting that mind.
So speaking of the mind, from the jiu-jitsu classes, the time that we spent together, I'm always talking about the mind, and I kind of want you to, get deep into this. How important is the mind? In success, it doesn't matter what it is. Where do you see, the importance of mindset?
It's huge. It's everything. It's everything. You got to believe in yourself. You got to believe that you are going to succeed, or you're destined to fail right away.
Right.
But I think mindset's everything when it comes to business. Of course, you've got to execute. You've got to put a plan together. But if you don't have a strong mindset that you're going to be successful and you're going to do whatever it takes to be successful, and you're not going to stop until you've achieved that level of whatever your desired level of success is, then without mindset, I don't see it happening.
Yeah. Grayson, how important do you think mindset is? From what you've learned from your dad, what you learned from jiu-jitsu, how important do you see having a strong mindset?
I think mindset is really important because you have to have a mindset to do jiu-jitsu. You have to have a mindset for jobs. You have to have a mindset for a lot of stuff. But it's helped me for jiu-jitsu, school. That's pretty much in sports.
Okay. What have you noticed from it?
Making your mama happier.
What have you noticed from your mindset? Like it's helped you, but have you noticed any? Is it like a mindset shift? Is what I'm getting to. Like maybe I don't want to do my homework right now, but no, you know what? That's weakness. Let me do it right now. Let me not procrastinate. Let me control my mind. Or in jiu-jitsu, you're losing a match and you're stuck on bottom, and there's a minute you have to come back and win, but you choose to fight, keep going for that 60 seconds, like you did at your first tournament. Like I looked at your dad, I'm like, bro, this guy did not stop until the ref was like, get off of him.
That happens to me when I'm in situations like jiu-jitsu tournaments, jiu-jitsu rolls, or when I'm doing my homework, or my mom wants me to do something like make my bed, take out the trash. I can name like over 200 things.
Oh, okay.
A lot of stuff.
I think for me, watching specifically Grayson, I think that more so it is confidence. I think that there is a mindset there and in them conquering their fears, and I've been extremely proud of them. I've been extremely proud of Grayson that, he was a Muay Thai guy. He started there and wanted to stay with Muay Thai. Finally got him pulled over into jiu-jitsu. Did his first tournament after 5 classes? He told me after like 2 or 3 classes, Dad, I want to compete.
Yeah.
And I said, son, you know this is a sub-only tournament and you're in that category. And
He wouldn't let me.
And I was like, you're probably going to get subbed because you don't know too many defenses, and they know how to put those submissions on. And he said, Dad, I know that, and I want to try, and I'm going to do my best. And I said, well, there we go. And he did do very well.
He did.
But I think what I'm getting at is I don't know that he would have done that. I can't say that he wouldn't, but I don't think he would have without the Muay Thai.
Yeah.
Without Coach D and yourself and Coach Gio making them spar from day one.
Yeah.
Getting in there and giving them that confidence that I can do this. And, that's the biggest takeaway for me of getting kids in some form of martial art, early on, is that it teaches them, gives them confidence, but that mindset of what we're talking about, quieting that mind. I'm not in trouble. I'm not going to die here. And keep after it, which hopefully will translate into their schoolwork.
Right.
And then into their work life.
Right.
As an adult.
Right.
Coach Donovan did put pressure on me. He put Jack on me when it was my first day sparring, like a tall dude. And then he put Brandon on me. That's what
Nice.
really killed me.
Good. That's how
Right
you
when
get
I
better.
started, I had no clue what I was going to do. I was like,
The bees were flying.
Gio, I haven't asked you a question yet. What do you think is the importance of mindset? How important does that play in your success?
Yeah, so the importance of mindset is overlooked because when you get motivated, obviously, you can do it all, right? You can run through a wall, you can roll 10 times, right? You can spar. Everything becomes easy when you get motivated, right? Mm-hmm. You just drop the phone, saw David Goggins' video, you're good. But your mindset plays in, and I was able to finally put into words why is mindset so important? Why do guys preach mindset so much? It's because everyone's gonna have those days where you don't want to go to work, where you don't want to train, where you don't want to do your responsibilities, and that's when your mindset kicks in. Obviously, it's your discipline, but it's your mindset, because your mind will always want to convince you to take the easy way. Your brain doesn't like pain, and so you're conditioned to not like pain, and it's your mindset that drives you towards the pain. Mm-hmm. And that's how powerful the mindset is, especially like in martial arts. You get smothered by somebody, life becomes easy, because, man, it's not as hard as having, like, say, Andre on top of you, right? Maybe doing these tasks is just a walk in the park. And that's the mindset like Mr. John said, like keeping your mind quiet and ignoring that voice, you know, that the B word, as they say, the B word voice, quieting that down. That's what mindset's so important. Because if you don't have the mindset to persevere, to work hard, then that voice will always overcome you in moments that are crucial.
You will give in. That is powerful. You know, for me, one of the biggest benefits for me from a business standpoint is when I'm training jujitsu, I don't think about business. It's the only time in 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, that I'm not thinking about business.
Yeah.
And all I'm thinking about is jujitsu. And for me, for that release, not to mention the exercise you're getting, right, the skill set that you're acquiring, but for me, it is a way to calm my mind on business. That's very helpful and powerful for me.
Yep, it's a good outlet. Jiu-jitsu is a very good outlet. Jiu-jitsu is a very good tool to build the mind, you know, to sharpen the sword physically, sharpen the sword mentally. And so, guys, train jiu-jitsu, right? Not taekwondo, not karate. No, that's not going to really benefit you, the truth. But I'm going to start wrapping it up. I got a couple more questions, of Gio, if you have anything to ask. But what is some advice you'd give your younger self? If you were to go back in time.
Don't worry so much. Things kind of will work themselves out. Try to focus on, and I'm not successful with this today. Right?
I have that problem too, man.
It's if I could go back to my younger self, I would say, you know, address it, but don't worry about it. Control the things that you can control, and I don't think I would be as gray-headed. Yeah.
People joke about me, like, I see your gray hair. I'm like, bro, don't play.
Bro, I couldn't have a
Don't
beard.
play.
I look like Santa Claus.
Don't play. That's one of my biggest things. But I guess it's easier said than done to do by worrying, right? Because I guess that's kind of the trait. You need that like natural trait in you as a business owner. Because if you don't worry, then it's like, well, it is what it is. Which you need to have that. It is what it is, you know? But at the same time, I feel like the worrisome helps you stay like going, keeps you thinking, keeps you on your toes, you know?
I don't think you need the mindset of it is what it is. If you've got that mindset, then you're Willie Nelson, if you hear him talk, you know. You know, it is, I think it is more of, hey, I've got a problem. Let's figure out what's causing this problem, okay? Let's figure out how we stop what's causing this problem, and then let's figure out, you know, what we can do differently that won't create this problem. And so, but the problem is you worry through every step of that, you know. You know, you and I have had conversations as of late. I mean, it's like I said, the trucking industry is the worst it's ever been. You know, that's 24 will go down in history, in my opinion, again, as worse than the recession, right? And so, a lot of worrying about things that I can't change.
Yeah.
You know? And then when you look back at them, you kind of can smile because you did all that worrying and it kind of, you worked it out or it worked itself out.
Yeah.
Powerful. I want to ask you one last thing is, obviously 31 years going on, right? You could just chill out, sell the business, pass it on to somebody else to run it, right? You just retire into the sunset. Train jiu-jitsu day and night. Do whatever you want, right? Why do you still continue to work? Why do you still continue, as you said, to push the bar and set new limits when you can just chill, man? You can just, quote unquote, enjoy life. Why do you still put yourself through the stress, through working 24/7? Why do you put yourself through that?
The benefits, the fruits of those labors. I mean, it's not a hobby. I tell people all the time, we are a for-profit. We're not a not-for-profit business. You know, it's not a club. You know, we're here to make money, and that's the name of the game. Now, that's not everything, but I also enjoy it. It's like I said, it's kind of become second nature. I could do it in my sleep. You know, it's trucking is very simple in principle. It's very hard in execution, right? And so that's the hard part about it. But I've done it so long, and anybody that's been in any kind of field, right, or craft, or activity for a while, it just becomes I don't know the easier is the word, because there's always a new challenge, right? There's always something new that's coming around at you. But for me, I don't know what I would do. I don't know. Of course, it's something that crosses your mind, right? But I still, even though I don't feel it sometimes, I still consider myself a young man. But I enjoy it. But to be honest with you, it's I put in a lot of blood, sweat, and tears, right, to get to where I'm at today. And so as long as I can maintain it successfully and make a buck here or two or three, then why?
Yeah. Powerful. I talk about a lot of new entrepreneurs, new guys that want to come in, start a business, right? And I say it every podcast. Guys, starting a business is not for everyone. It's not, okay? But if you're going to do it, self-development, develop yourself, develop your mind, develop your swords, sharpen your swords. We can go and give you so many tips. Mm-hmm. We can give these guys so many tips, right? I don't consider myself a black belt in business. I consider you a black belt. I look at you as a black belt, I tell people I'm a blue belt in business. That's what I am. I have not hit purple belt, brown belt, black belt. So I'm still aspiring every day to get better, to get better, to get better. As a blue belt in business, and I've been doing this for 12, 13 years, What is one tip, just one? It can be anything, mine, whatever it is, that you will give somebody that wants to start a business and work for themselves?
Make sure, okay, that you are doing your research. And what I mean by that is good ideas don't necessarily mean good businesses. Mm-hmm. And so, chances are whatever you're thinking about getting into or doing, you didn't create it. But if you created it, you've got a monopoly.
Right.
So by all means, people like it, you created it, you're going to be a gazillionaire.
Yeah.
Quick. But if you're getting in a business that's already established, is there a need? Like, does Collierville really need another pizza joint? I'm just kidding there.
We do.
Kidding, but not kidding.
So what I'm saying is, if you're getting into a business, do your research, make sure that there's a need for that. Number one, right? There's demand, because there's supply and demand. And so if there is a demand for that, who are some of the top performers in that space? And I would say do your homework and see what has made them successful. I'm not saying copy them, right? Because if they're offering something one way and you come in offering it the same way, what value added are you creating to whatever service or product that you're, because you're either making something or you're providing a service. You're either manufacturing or service, right? And so, I would encourage people, do your homework, make sure there's a need for that, because you can burn through some money quick. And the other thing is, if you can't save money, you're not gonna make it. I shouldn't say you're not. That's very strong.
That's true.
I'm gonna say, we have a lease purchase program to where we take trucks and put them in a lease. They lease them for a certain amount of time, and then they have an option to purchase that truck, right? And we'll get some of the best road drivers, some of my best, will want to try to be an entrepreneur, want to get out, be a business owner, an owner-operator. Not a lot of them succeed. That doesn't mean they're not great at what they do, is my point. They're one of the best. It's sitting in that seat, picking that freight up on time, delivering it on time. They can't manage their money. Next thing I know, they come in there, what are you doing? I'm moving. Where are you moving? I'm moving to Germantown. I bought a house. They ride in a new Escalade, some of your point. They didn't save their money. And, we had a older gentleman that at one point had 45 trucks leased to us in the early days. And Mr. Billy's favorite saying was, you'd say, how you doing, Mr. Billy? He'd say, hard times, but save you money. And if you're going to be successful in business, you better be able to save and manage money because it's all about cash flow.
Yeah. So I'm going to piggyback off that a little bit. So growing up, people got annoyed at me saying this, but I would say I'm broke. So every time they would say, let's go do this, I'm like, man, I'm broke. Everyone got sick of me. Like, obviously, I got older and I opened up an academy and then I said, I can't say that no more. Right? But anytime somebody asked me anything, I would say, like, bro, it's tough. I'm broke. Like, first thing out of my mouth. And this is because I was trying to build something, right? But to your point, yeah, saving money is one of the most important things. And so many people, I say, like, what is it saying? They get too big for their britches, And so they make a little bit of money. Next thing you know, nice car, nice watch, you know what I mean? Fancy dinners every night on the weekend with, whoever it is that they want to be with, and they're not with the same person, and just throwing the money out there. And then they're like, well, I never have money. It's like, bro, you're always spending it,
And not understanding, like, for the example I use, so I would ask them, like, what's your fuel costing you a mile? It's like deer in the headlights. Like, you can figure that?
Yeah.
Like, you don't even know what your fuel's costing you per mile? What are you talking about?
Yeah.
And so I know right then and there they're not going to be successful, And so that goes back to my point of knowing if you're going to start a business, do your research. And that isn't just research about, this product is this and it does this features. You better know something about financials and about, cash flow and your cost and whatever you're trying to do and how to price your services or price your product to make sure that you're going to make money. Because you may say, yeah, there's a demand for this and people are willing to pay $20 for this, and because this leading company over here sells it for $19.99, all right? But what they don't understand is that leading company has scale. That leading company has built something to where, it doesn't cost them that much to manufacture it or their service, right?
Right.
And you're coming in to this field, whatever that is, and you don't have that same scale. And so, yeah, you may be able to sell them all day long for $18.99, but your cost is $22. How long are you going to be in business doing that?
Not long.
Not long.
Yeah.
Till your seed money runs out.
Yeah.
And so that would be my advice.
That's some powerful advice. That's some good tips. The last thing. Okay, both of you guys do jiu-jitsu.
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
All right, this is how we're going to close it out. How has this relationship as father-son, doing jiu-jitsu, because the beauty of jiu-jitsu is, you played football, baseball, but now you're a dad, you can't play football and baseball with them. You're going to throw it in the backyard, throw the ball, right? But you don't get to go to games together. You don't get to compete at the same baseball game or football game, right? And so every time I have parents come in, I'm like, look, this is one of the things in life that you can do together, train together, talk about, compete together, travel together, and both of you are involved. Whether you're 10 or you're 47, you both can do it. So how has this been, your jiu-jitsu journey been doing this with your kids?
So for me, one of the biggest things that I've gained from it is, if we in the past would have a challenge with Grayson going to sleep at a certain time at night. Now I can just put him in a rear naked choke and put him down. No.
Or I'd escape from it and do it
so-
to him.
I think that it's wonderful. I don't think that I've ever told Grayson this, and so I'm glad you asked this question. It fills my heart up tremendously that we've got something that we can share, that he's passionate about, that I'm passionate about, that it's going to only have us spend more time together, traveling around and competing with one another. We're going to go through some highs and lows together. We're going to have successes. We're going to win. We're going to lose. But it's also going to give me an opportunity to teach him some of those life lessons that we were talking about that maybe certain kids aren't getting taught at an early age about, hey, yeah, you got your butt kicked.
Yeah.
So you can tuck your tail and you can make all these excuses why you got your butt kicked. And we can figure out, sort of like we're talking about in business, we can figure out what happened, what caused it. Same principles. And what can we do differently to prevent that from happening again? And I think that, the confidence for me of what I see from them and knowing that I'm giving them a skill set and a confidence level that nobody will ever be able to take away from them, never in their life. And, I don't think he understands that because I didn't understand it at 10.
Yeah.
But I understand it now at 47.
Yeah.
Right? And that's one of my fears. I'm talking about fears. One of my fears is that I don't do a good enough job with him to have him prepared for adulthood. What happens? I'm not guaranteed tomorrow. What happens if I'm no longer here? And so it gives me an opportunity to help with that process. What about you, Peanut?
Well, I like what he said, and I'm the same way. But I like sharing something with my dad that me and him can do and travel around the world and see each other do it, help each other, and that's pretty much it.
That's you close it out like that's something small. I know it means a lot, right? But I always try to
You
tell
said
people.
pretty much everything I was going to say.
I know,
so.
but that little thing right there that may seem like, like you said, I get to travel with them, compete with them. I get to train. I have something to do with my dad. Mm-hmm. That little thing, it may seem small to somebody. Not many people have that. A lot of people crave that. A lot of people wish for that. A lot of people pray for that. And so that thing is very, very important, and you got to take care of it, right? And you got to be excited about it and be appreciative and grateful for your dad working his butt to try to get you in there, right? Because a lot of kids at your age, and it's not you, right? Because I can see you're open-minded. You're grateful for it. You're thankful for it. But a lot of kids don't see it at a young age, like the importance of jiu-jitsu. Like for me, when you went with your dad to Vegas, I didn't tell your dad, I didn't tell you, that was one of the coolest things I saw this year. That made my year already. I'm like, this kid's with his dad at a tournament in Vegas. Like they traveled together. Like my dad's competing and I'm there with him, and one day you're going to be competing with him in Vegas, And so that's a very, very big thing, and that's one of the most important things about this aspect of the jiu-jitsu journey. When I see like a father and a son, right? Everything else is going to come. Your triangle is going to come. I tell people, in jiu-jitsu, your triangles come. The technique always comes. The confidence, you stay long enough, it will come. The self-esteem will come, But the relationship, This is the journey. This is the most important thing.
I look at that too because he's not going to realize that until he's our age, right? Mm-hmm. He's not going to realize the time that we've spent together and how valuable that is because, we're both going to be competing. There's going to be a certain point that I don't compete anymore, or very rarely compete. And and then we're traveling and I'm watching this killer, hopefully one day continuing on, as a young black belt one day competing. And so, it's huge.
It's awesome, man. Awesome. Mr. John,
I enjoyed it.
Thank you so much.
You've been after me.
Thank you, sir.
I have to say something before we close the video.
Okay.
If you want to see more of my dad in this show, or subscribe if you want to see more of Mo in the show, or comment if you want to see more of me in the show.
Oh, I like this. So everybody, guys, I want to see a lot of likes and I want to see a lot of comments. And if you want to give us some subscribes, so I can interview these guys.
I think this guy's a natural.
Indeed.
Comments.
You got me a podcaster probably one day.
He didn't even know this was happening until about 3 hours ago.
I know. He just showed up ready to go.
I'm telling you.
So
yeah, let's have applause for everybody.
Let's see.
look at him. He's a pro.
I enjoyed it.
Me too.
I appreciate you guys, Mr. John. Thank you so much. It's about time I got him on, guys. I've been trying for a while, longer than you guys can imagine. And obviously even better with Grayson. He surprised us today. And co-host Giovanni Jimenez, right? Guys, I hope you enjoyed this episode 22 of Sharpen Your Sword podcast. Remember, we all carry two swords around. The samurais carry two swords, okay? And we don't take the time to think about this. Our two swords in present day is the mind and the body, all right? If you want to see success, it doesn't matter what kind of success it is in your family, in your community, in your business, in yourself, you have to wake up every single day and you have to sharpen these swords. Physically, you got to get after it, work out, train Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, do some sort of martial arts, combat sports, mentally study, educate yourself, push yourself physically to test your mind. And this will help you get on the path to greatness. Okay, guys? So please like, comment, subscribe, share, help us out. Let me know what you think about this episode, okay? And I'll see you on the next episode of Sharpen Your Sword podcast. Peace out.